this. Everybody, I'm going to record. I'm actually going to turn off my video and will ask you to probably do the same because that way it'll save some bandwidth on the recording. If you need to come or want to turn your video on, then feel free to, and we'll do so again at the end. So they all have our video on at the end. But if you'll turn your video off while we're presenting, it will just make life a little bit easier for all of us and save some bandwidth. I'm also, unfortunately, in the middle of the boondocks. So I have more cows for neighbors than people. So my internet is a little bit spotty at times. So that's why I sometimes leave my video off. Today's meeting is not going to be very long. It's going to be a short meeting. In fact, most of you probably read everything that we are going to go over today already as part of the Cyberops class. But inside of the messages I've sent you, I've talked about the 3 primary sites we will be using for this course. One being canvas.stanley.edu, which quite honestly, all you're using this particular site for is to complete your first assignment, get your syllabus, and get your seat tokens. Once you have your seat token to enroll, then most of our work will be done over on the Netacad site. Now, I do have here a video on how to access the O'Reilly database, and I'm going to show you that database because, folks, I'll tell you, quite honestly, I know most of you are not paying for this course. You're getting it for part of our grant, but it's almost worth paying for a course every 6 months from Stanley just to be able to get access to this database. I used to pay almost $500 a year to access this database personally. The school went ahead and did a campus-wide subscription to this database, and I'll show it to you in a few minutes, and you'll see why it's so important. I do want to go over the syllabus real quickly. This is Cyberops Associate, so it's the new, we used to have CCNA Cyberops. Now we have Cyberops Associate. I have virtual office hours that basically are by appointment. So if you need to get in touch with me, contact me. I think most of you know I am very responsive to emails. I am not as responsive to voicemails. I'll be quite upfront with you. I just don't get to emails as quick, or excuse me, voicemails as quickly as an email. So you may get an email response to me within minutes. You may get a voicemail response to me in hours. And that's just because of the way our voicemail system works. It makes it a little harder for me to respond to you. The textbook and everything is online free. You don't have to pay anything for that. This is the Cyberops course, and it is designed. The great thing about this course, it is designed to make you a level 1 SOC analyst. That's the goal for this course. So if you are teaching a 2-year degree program and you have a spot where that would be useful, it is an extremely good course. I think it's the least Cisco of all the Cisco courses you have ever seen. I've already received a text from Kirby going, holy moly, 28 modules. Yes, it is 28 modules, but please understand it's 28 modules and some of them are very short. So it's not as much as what you think it is. I've also made a change this semester. This is something totally new for me, and I'm actually taking this from one of my other ITQ instructors. And by the way, that means instructor, trainer, qualified instructors. I have a couple. Quite honestly, Kirby's one of mine. Dan Abergetti is another. I don't know if you know Dan's courses, but Dan teaches the other section of this course. And Dan requires his students to do 20 of the module labs of your choice. I bumped it to 25 because I wanted to do like 80% of the modules, but you are required to do 25 of the module labs of your choice. I usually require you to do all of the module labs and all of the packet tracers, but I bumped it down to just 25. Now, if you want to do them all, please do them all. I don't think it's that hard to do all of the labs. But it is something that is, if you want to do it, it's I'm not requiring every single lab. I'm only requiring 25 of them. You do need to score 75% or higher on the final exam, and you do have to take the skills exam lab final, which is the skills assessment in our Netlabs system that I'll show you here shortly. The other thing I want you to know is this class is designed to where if you do teach it to students, especially now, I know most of us are doing remote. Quick show of hands. Let me get participants here. And if you want to come online and tell me too, you can just say, how many of you are teaching seated now? Paul, Clifton, Carla, how many of you are teaching seated now? We do have some seated courses, by the way. So Clifton is teaching seated, okay. Paul, are you teaching seated? Your mic may not be working. You may have to send it to me in
Yes,
text. Oh,
we are.
you are? Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Gail,
Kelly, I'm teaching seated every day. Yeah.
okay. So Richard, you are seated.
We here at Augusta Tech are blended. I mean, we've
Okay.
got some seated, some virtual, kind of like a mixed pitch hodgepodge of everything.
I understand. Yeah, it's kind of crazy the way things are being done. We are now for these ITC courses, obviously we're all online. For our student classes, we are teaching, actually we do have a CCNA series of classes that are seated. And then we have the majority of our classes are online. But one of the reasons I mentioned that is this class is designed to where students could download the VMs locally and install them in VirtualBox. So you do have the option, like in this very first lab 115, of installing a local VirtualBox machine. We will have a Netlabs environment for you to use. And if you have a Netlabs environment, there are Netlabs that are already built for CC or for Cyberops Associate. So you have those available. So just be aware that the Netlabs already exist for the Cyberops Associate. It's not something you're going to have to build. You just download the OVAs, install the pod design, and it's available. However, if you don't have Netlabs, you have the option of your students downloading the machines locally and putting them on VirtualBox. So there are options there. You also have the option, I will tell you, at NDG, and I don't make a dime off of them, so I'm not hawking their product to make money, but you do have the ability under cybersecurity here. They do sell Cyberops Associate access for something like $39.95 for 6 months. So if you had a Cyberops class and you don't have Netlabs, but you want your students to be able to access the pod designs that I'm going to show you here, it is possible to do that through a hosted service with NDG. We also, quite honestly, for some of our schools, we provide free access for their classes to do it. And we are going to go to a model probably in the fall where we charge a little bit per student to use our system, just because I'm paying nearly 20 grand a year to support our data center just to do maintenance. So we're trying to figure out a way to stay sustainable and stay in business while still providing that access. But there are ways to teach this both locally in your classroom. There are ways to teach this remotely. And as we go through the class, if you have any questions about how you can teach it, let me know, and we'll spend some time on that as we move through the course. Any questions before we go any further here? Now, I have these weeks set up like 210, so I know that's next week technically. Really, the due dates you will see inside of Netacad is for 214. So my due dates are, the week begins on 210, the due date is on that Sunday. So this is not due till those days. And I want to tell you something else. This is an instructor trainer class. I understand you have full-time jobs. I am not going to hound you about the fact that you don't have your labs turned in by 214. Okay. That's not why I'm here. These are, I put due dates because if you are like me, if I have no due dates, I won't do it. It's just a fact, because I've got so much going on. So don't let these due dates overwhelm you. Don't let it freak you out. Two things. Remember, you've only got to do 25 module labs of your choice. And the due dates are just to give you a schedule to go by. They're not to be a punitive thing. I don't take off any points for you being late, and I will not hound you about it. I may hound you and say, do you need any help? Is there anything going on? But I'm not going to hound you about being late on a due date. Okay, we've got a chat here. What we got? How do we submit the labs? I'm getting ready to show you that. So this is just real quick. You can look through this syllabus and look at our different due dates and those type things. But that's really all the Canvas site is used for, is to grab the syllabus and then to grab your seat token. Now, once you get your seat token and use the process that I've given you, you should be enrolled on netacad.com in your Cyberops Associate class. Now, inside of the Cyberops Associate, you will see the course itself. Now, I am actually using the new experience version. So I am using the Moodle based, and I know this is being recorded, but I'm going to say it exactly how I feel. I'm not happy with this system. It's getting there slowly but surely. But this new experience has a lot to it's growing, but it's got a lot to be where we need to be versus the Canvas system. It is not terrible, but it's still Moodle. And so I'm hoping as we move forward, and they are working, I'll give them credit. Cisco is working very hard to implement the ideas that we're giving them. And we're already getting some of those things in, but be aware that it is still Moodle as it is. Yeah, very limited in what we can do at this point. They are expanding that, I will say. They are trying to get to at least functionality that's equivalent to the old Canvas-based system. And so just, be aware, we're stuck with it. We're going to use it, and that's the way it's going to be. I'm really using this because of the fact that I want to learn how to use this new system. And this was a good example for me and for Dan Abrighetti to be able to use that. So your syllabus is reproduced here. But the question was, how do you upload items? It's right here. When you complete a lab, there's an upload item here where you can submit your assignment. Okay. Now, right now, I've only got 7 people who have redeemed their seat tokens. So as soon as you can, please redeem your seat tokens, because I cannot turn on the exams for the class until you redeem your seat token. But the question was, let me see what it was JMaga. And so that was how you do it. Basically, the labs right here is how you upload it. Each one of these is
yeah, that's it. So you just upload it and then you submit it through there. Good.
correct. Yes, sir. And so what you'll do basically is you can download when you do the lab itself. Now I will tell you the next item, and I just sent you access today to your Netlab site. So let's go say that I was going to do lab 115. So let's go in here and I'm going to schedule a lab for myself. Now I have a ton of classes because I'm an instructor in about 7 billion classes, but you will only probably see a couple classes at most. More than likely, you will only see your KFC, and that's my initials, folks. Don't laugh, but it is Kentucky Fried Chicken. That's my initials. And I put it that way so all my classes appear together. But KFC, Cyberops Associate, ITC, SP21, you will see those, and then you'll click on the actual, not the skills assessment. This is your hands-on test that we will do at the very end of the course. But if you click right here, you will see, okay, lab 11, actually this first lab is just a lab that's from the content. So let's go in here. Oops, sorry. Let's actually go into the content itself. So we're going to read the modules. Now, here's the nice thing. Regardless of the back end, once you get into the content itself, it looks exactly the same. So there's no real difference here in terms of the content. But as we move down here, and I'm just going to go over here. Oops, I'm going to go to the course index and uncheck all but the labs. You'll see the first lab is installing the virtual machines. If you do this lab, now this is an optional lab because you have access to Netlabs. But if you do this lab, you'll just download it. And then anywhere there's something that needs to be filled out, what I typically do, quite honestly, is I download the lab to a downloads folder. And then most people don't know this, but you can just open this up in Word. So just open this in Word. And actually, I just double click on it. What's it's saying, but actually I can go to just open Word here, Word. And Word will open the PDF and convert it to into a Word document. So once you just open it into Word, you can put in any items that you need and then upload this document into our uploads. Okay. So some of our labs are this. They are literally just labs that are available inside of the curriculum itself. Here's another one, 116, cybersecurity case study. You'll see what technologies and tools were used. So if I was doing this lab, I would download it. I would just save it locally. I would open it in Word. So I just type Word, just do Word and drag it over. And then I would fill in my document. Okay, so I can enable editing. So just fill it in, whatever I put here. Let's say what technologies were used. Let's say rootkit. Oh, wait a minute, I got actually, looks like my, get rid of bold italics and let's do automatic. Okay, there we go. Rootkit, malware, whatever, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then I would save this. And what I do ask is that typically when you save it, it's got the name on it. Just put your name at the end. So I'll just say Kelly Caudle, and you can save it as a PDF or as a document, either one. I just save it as a doc. So just get rid of the PDF portion. And then you would upload this document directly into our upload right here. So if I just did 116, I would have completed the lab by downloading it and completing it inside of Word. And then I would have uploaded it into here. Now, one thing I will suggest is part of your 25, try to do most of them from inside of the ones that are in Netlabs, because these are the ones that are actually our true hands-on labs. You'll see they start with lab 303. Okay, so inside of Netlabs here, if I click here, one of the things I do want you to notice, be careful. You'll notice it looks like there's only 4 pods for you to use, but there's actually 20 pods. There's 20 different pods. So if you look and it looks like all the pods are in use, make sure you click that little arrow button and go all the way over, because I built 20 different pods for us to use. And this is between our class and Dan Abrighetti's class. But the red line, and this was all part of the video I sent you earlier today, but the red line is today's time. But if you know you've got time Saturday, you can go out here to Saturday and schedule a lab for, 5 p.m., 6 p.m. Saturday afternoon. So be aware that you could schedule them in the future. Please just use your labs if you do schedule them. I'm going to schedule a lab now just for a couple hours. And what happens is the virtual machines needed for this lab now get booted up inside of our data center. And they are in the process right now of booting, and they will be available for you to do your labs. Now, one very important part that I did mention in the video I sent out with the earlier email today, anytime you're doing a Netlabs lab, make sure you use the documents from inside the Netlabs lab. And I'll show you that in just a second. There's a content tab. So you'll see here, this content says this lab has been updated for use on Netlabs Plus. If you download the 303 lab from the curriculum, so if I go in here and I go, okay, I want to see just labs. Oops, excuse me. I say I want to see just labs, and I go down here and I see there's a 303 lab, identify running processes. This lab may not be exactly the same as what is inside of Netlabs. It may look the same, but when you're doing the labs in Netlabs, make sure you're using this document. That ensures that it will work in Netlabs. So right now you'll see there's a Windows client. And so this tells you what to do. It tells you, hey, guess what? Select Control, send Control Alt Delete. So it's Control Alt Delete. And we're going to do Cyberops user. And the correct password is analyst. If I can type it correctly. Oops, not correct. ANALYST. And still not correct because I can't type it. Cyberops, I'm an idiot. So sometimes even the instructor has to look, but it's Cyberops. A lot of times it's Cyberops and analyst is the password, or analyst and Cyberops is the password in our particular labs. This is the Windows box, and then it's going to have you, walk through and do the lab. Now, this is where having a secondary monitor is really nice, because you can actually put this over here, and then you can pull up the actual PC over here, and then you can do the lab. So it's nice if you have 2 monitors. Okay, so you can go to Toolbox, and you can go, and it says to run the TCP view. So TCP view, and then run TCP view, and you can actually see what's going on. Oops, see what's going on the system. And agree, and it will actually install it. And then here's the items that are running on this machine. So you can actually see the different processes that are running using that particular program from sysinternals. So very neat, excellent product that we have. Now, one of the cool things that we do have too, by the way, is you do have the ability to take a screenshot. So if during this process you want to prove that you've done the lab, you can take a screenshot. It will actually take a screenshot, and we have up to 15 screenshots allowed. And then that will stay with your lab so that I can look at what you've done and see that you did the lab. We'll use that more with the hands-on final, not so much with the labs themselves. How do you get into Netlab? So I sent you an email today that explained that your username is the first part of your Stanley email address, and then your password is Cisco123. So whatever your Stanley email address is before the @ portion, that will be what is your username for Netlabs, and then the password is Cisco123.
Is it the same way with that we logged into the first site, not the Cisco site?
No, it is not. It is a little bit different. It is like I said, the first portion. So the email I sent today mentioned that if you were Daffy Duck 3434 at scc.stanley.edu, your username for Netlabs will be dduck3434. So
Okay, so you have to
anything
use your
before the
Stanley email, right?
correct.
that-
Anything before
alright.
the that's your username. And then your initial password is Cisco123, all lowercase. Did you get the email I sent out earlier today?
I'm not sure because did you send it? You didn't send it to the Stanley, you sent it to our personal email, right?
I sent it to both, actually.
Because I don't have a Stanley email.
You do have a Stanley email, but it's just it's
The one we
you may not know
created.
it. You may not know it because we just sent them. We just sent them to you. Who is this speaking, by the way? And
Joseph, this is Joseph.
Joseph. Okay, Joseph, your it went to. I'm looking him up.
Because the last one I have from you is, let me see, when did you send it out?
Joseph, I sent an email today, but the one that you have on file is the optonline.net.
Yes.
Okay, that was sent today.
I got it then, all right,
Yeah, it should have been sent today.
good.
Yep, it should have been sent today. Let me see, around sometime this morning, I believe that's when it was sent. Yep, it was sent. I sent you your username, and then it should have been sent. I hope it was sent today. Let me check again. Let me make sure I didn't miss you. No, it was sent today. It was sent this morning. If not,
I did get it. I have to look at it, so.
okay, no problem. But that gives you your information on how to log in and all.
Thank you.
No problem. No problem at all. But that is how we do our. Let me go ahead and share the screen again. So that's how we actually are able to upload our labs and things. Now, the good news is, again, when you get done your reservation, if you finish the lab early, which you normally will, you just click in reservation now, and then that will free up the pod for your classmates so they can do a lab. You are on the same servers that we use for our CCNA lab. So if you may see, you won't see it because you're not an instructor, but this is one of my other students doing a lab right now. So again, Canvas, you're pretty much done with it if you've done the initial assignment and got your seat token. Netacad will be where we do 99% of our work. Okay, this is where you also read the course materials. So when you see the content, when you click here, that will take you to your course materials so you can read. So your textbook is inside of here, so you don't have to actually purchase a textbook at all. And then netlabs.stanley.edu is where you will do your hands-on labs. Any questions about that?
I have a question about the exam. You're going to cover that too?
Okay, what exam? What's your question?
The module exams is just going to be activated. You take them when they're activated?
Yes, they will be activated. Now, here's something that all of you need to know as instructors. Right now, if I go in here in the assessment center and I activate, it would only activate for the 9 students who have actually already used their seat tokens. So what you want to do as an instructor is you want to make sure before you start activating exams that all of your students are enrolled as students. Because when you activate, it only activates for those students who are currently in the class. So if I'm gonna go back there, I'm teaching, and I can go in here and look at the class for Cyberops. If I click on course details, right now, this is the only people who've done their seat tokens. Well, there's 17 people in this class. If I actually go ahead and activate exams, I'll have to do it multiple times. So I don't activate the exams until everybody has completed their seat token. Once that is done, you will literally be able to click right here and the exam will be activated for you. And that's one thing I will teach you as we move forward. That's the weird thing about the class. We have to teach you not only the content, we also teach you how to navigate the course. But we will show you later on as we get further in how to actually create an activation. So if I was to activate the exams now, it would only activate it for those 8 or so that were in the class already. So I'll be waiting to do that until everybody redeems their seat token. Okay. But
And
then
the skills assessment that you said that at the end, is
Yep.
that in the Netlab, or is that that has to be done in Netlab?
that has to be done in Netlabs. Yes, sir. So that is actually, if you look in the class that you're in Netlabs, you will see there's a skills assessment right here. You will schedule that just like any other lab. And so you will pick your time at the end of the course and you will schedule it. And I would suggest strongly you do yourself a 4-hour reservation, which is the max. But yes, that will be something you do inside of Netlabs itself. So that's the skills exam, and it is inside of Netlabs. Now the written final, which is way down here at the bottom, you'll see here, the actual written exam, okay, the final exam, this will be an exam just like a chapter or a module exam that I will turn on for you at the end of the course. If you score a 75 or higher on the final exam, you will receive a discount voucher for the Cyberops Associate exam. It is a 60%. Actually, you're an instructor, so it'll be a 70% discount voucher. Okay.
How much does that one cost? 300 also?
Yeah, it's 300, and then you get a 70% discount because this is an instructor trainer course. Typically, your students get a 60% discount, and instructors get a 70% discount. Folks, hold on one second. I've got to mute for just a second. I'll be right back.
Most of the other participants online, are you Cyberops instructors, or what is your background?
Hang on.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you're referring to me. I just joined not too long ago. Are you asking what my background is?
No, I'm just a participant. I was just wondering what everyone else is, how everyone else is taking this class. I'm not the instructor. I'm just I'm a nosy participant.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Did you say
I sounded important though, didn't I?
Oh yeah, I was like, man, you're trying to get us in trouble or
I'm
something?
trying to make little chitter chatter while the instructor's gone. I'm taking over the class.
all right? Is this Jim?
Joe.
Joe, I'm sorry, I missed your name. Joe, it's Richard. I'm at Coastal Carolina in Jacksonville, North Carolina. I've been teaching the CCNA curriculum for, gosh, 20 years now.
Yeah.
And really now that Net 226 is sort of effectively gone, we're thinking about using this as a possible replacement for Net 226.
That's a good idea.
Because since the CCNA curriculum finishes up in 3 semesters now,
Yeah, right. 3. Yep.
that kind of left a hole in our curriculum for, well, what do we do with Net 226 now?
Yeah, we're in the same predicament. Yes.
So we're actually going to try out using Cyberops as kind of a replacement for 226.
Well, there's also DevOps too. DevNet they're talking about too, right?
Yeah. So
That's a little bit.
we may leave Net 226 in our curriculum and just sort of retitle it and stick in Cyberops.
Yeah, we're thinking about the
And I
same
think that's
thing.
I do think that's a great idea. And I apologize, folks. One thing, those of you who know me have known me for a while, and Joe, I don't think we've ever met before, but you'll notice I was hit by a truck in 2016 while cycling and paralyzed from the neck down. So if you ever meet me, you'll notice my hands act weird and I walk funny. I'm not drunk yet, I promise. But occasionally I have some issues come up and I'll have to step away from class for a second. But that is definitely a good idea as far as trying to make this into Net 226. And like you said, Joe, there is DevNet, which we're teaching. It's full for this semester, but that's also another option for a secondary course that may be a possibility. And I didn't even think about it. Everybody could kind of give a quick overview of where you're from. If you're willing to share. Again, apologize. My name is Kelly Caldwell. I'm from Stanley Community College. I take for granted people know me. I guess I'll start right into class, and I do apologize for that. Been at the Cisco Academy at Stanley for 20 plus years. I've been in the academy for over 20 years, 22 years since 99, I guess. 25 years with the state, been teaching Cisco forever and a day. So been here, and I run our Academy Support Center and I run our Instructor Training Center. I also run what they call our Online IT Academy, which is where we teach Cisco, Palo Alto, VMware, AWS in a continuing education environment. So that's kind of my background. Currently Cyberops Associate. Actually, I had the old CCNA Cyberops. I'm kind of grandfathered in under that. Took the new CCNA 7 over the summer, and am getting ready to redo my CCNP to keep my CCNP status. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. So sorry I didn't do that earlier. I always forget to do that. But any questions about the lab assignments or the group or the exams? Okay, or the Netlabs. Like I said, don't forget we have 20 pods. So don't just think because the first 4 pods are in use that there are no pods available. We have 20 different pods available.
You said you have to schedule, how do you have to schedule when you're going to use it? Is that what you're saying also?
Yes. Yep. So you basically go in here and you'll log in, and when you log in, you have nothing scheduled at all. So if I wanted to do a new lab, I do new lab reservation, schedule lab for myself. I would pick the class that I am in, which for you will be just this one single class. Then you'll pick the Cyberops Associate. You'll pick the lab you want to take. So if you wanted to do the lab that is on Linux servers, you would just pick this lab. You would pick any pod that's available. Now, again, I'll go out here just a little ways to pod 9. The red line is our current time. So I'll just click here. And then you can set it for up to a maximum of 4 hours. Your accounts can do it up to 4 hours, but then you also have the ability to do up to 2 different extensions of 30 minutes each. So technically it's a 5-hour maximum. If you click submit, what happened now is you will see that at this point I have a lab now that I can enter. And so this lab environment is booting for me inside of our Netlabs at Stanley Community College. Now I click right here and you'll see the pod is initializing. It usually takes up to 5 minutes for the Cyberops pods to initialize. If you ever take our CCNA classes, it can take upwards of 10 minutes for that to kind of boot because it's booting real gear. But you'll notice here, this just booted a workstation, and you can see it actually booting a Linux workstation as part of the labs. So it's sitting here and it'll boot, and it won't let you, obviously you can't do anything because it's being used by the system. The beauty of the system of Netlabs is when I get done, it is completely restored to a blank state, so the next student coming in will get the pod exactly the way it needs to be to do the lab. Okay, Richard, you had a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, Kelly, in these Netlab pods, I know in the Cyberops curriculum, the students are effectively downloading 2 Linux machines.
Right.
So in these Netlab pods, does the topology generally the same every time we launch one of them? Is it 2?
The neat thing about this is, depending upon the lab, if the lab only needs the Linux box, it will only boot the Linux box. If it needs both, it will boot both. If it needs a security onion and it needs another box for you to look at, it will boot both. This is the Netlabs only boots the actual VMs that are needed. And the students would do the same if they had VirtualBox. So if you have VirtualBox loaded, I got VirtualBox here. I had it somewhere. I actually have VMware. I have Workstation Pro. But if they were loading Workstation Pro, they would just boot the machine that they needed for the lab.
Right.
So
Okay. I was just thinking when we schedule out a Netlab reservation, would we say do, as a general rule of thumb, do 2 hours and then extend it if you need to, or maybe an hour and a half?
we've got 20 pods. So quite honestly, there's I think we've got a class of 25 and this class of nearly 20. So even we've learned with up to 50 students, you can almost honestly get away with about 7 pods for 50 students. And I built 20 pods, so I don't think it's ever going to be a big issue.
Okay.
So, I mean, feel free to do 2 or 3 hours every time you do a reservation. The big thing is if you do finish early, so, I've got my content here, I've done my lab, I'm finished. Once you're done, just make sure you go ahead and do an end reservation, because that will clean the pod up and make it available to somebody else.
Okay.
That's really the bigger thing. You can do a 4-hour reservation and then just, if you finish in an hour, end it, and then the next 3 hours will be available for the student.
So you're saying basically what you do is you have to reserve the lab time for the lab you're doing. And if you finish, you can do another lab time.
Correct. Yep. So basically just say here, so if I finish this one, I would say, okay, I'm done with this and I'm gonna end this reservation now. And then I'm going to go in here and I want to do the next lab. So I did 434. So now I'm going to go in here and I'll go and say, okay, let's do the next lab in the list. So I'm going to go in here and say, I'm going to do 444, locating log files. Now you'll notice that the lab I was working in is still showing here because it's going through the process of cleaning that VM and resetting it to a blank state, to a snapshot, basically. This will clear up shortly, but just pick you another pod and say, okay, I'm going to use pod 10 and I'm going to do, now just be careful because the length of reservation is fairly short to begin with. So give yourself enough time. So I'll do 235 and then you can do your next lab if you want to do another lab. It will not take that long to clear up. You'll see probably, in fact, if I go in here now and go back and look at pod 9, pod 9 will probably be clear probably by now, if not pretty short. Yep, pod 9 says already been released. So you see it cleared it up, so you could actually use pod 9 now if I wanted to. So it takes, especially with these labs, because we're not dealing with real gear, we're only dealing with virtual machines. It's just the amount of time it takes ESXi to restore it to a snapshot, delete the virtual switch, and then go from there. So it actually releases them very quickly inside of these.
And then once we finish the lab, you get it. So there's nothing to submit. You can review it once it's submitted.
I can't actually see the number of hours. I do want you to submit the documents into the area where you upload. So like if I did this 434 or 444, if there's any questions in the lab itself, I would like for you to upload it. If there are no questions, still upload it just so that I know that you did the lab. I can go over here, and one of the things I can do is I have the ability to look at usage. So I can go in here and say, okay, let's look at labs, and let's say I'm gonna look at our class. So here's our class here, and I can see who's done labs in the class. Now, right now, it's just going to be me because I'm the only one that's been in the class. It does tell me the number of hours that were attended. So if you do a reservation but don't go and do the lab, then I know that. Now, one of the things that you need to do, or that helps me a lot, if you do any screenshots, I can see those screenshots. So, as you're doing the lab, if you want to do a screenshot or two, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine too, because I can see how long you were in the lab itself. So I have a decent idea of, you probably didn't do the whole lab in 0.10 hours, and I didn't. You notice I just went in there and then ended it. But this just gives me an idea of what you are doing. For our student classes, we actually have, as part of their upload assignments, to make sure they're doing these PC, these screenshots, so we can see what they've got. I've got it set to allow you up to 15 screenshots.
And there's no way to go back in once you're done. If you didn't finish it, you have
You
to
can do
start
it.
all over.
Right, you just start back over. You'd start back over. But remember, if you do end up and the lab starts to end on you, you have the ability to request more time, which will give you another 30 minutes. So it gets down to 15 minutes left to go. It's going to tell you, hey, you're about to run out of time. Would you like to request more time? And you can request more time and it'll give you another 30 minutes. And I've allowed you to do up to 2 requests for more time. So you've got up to an hour extra of time, which typically will give you plenty of time. Most of these labs they won't even take 2 hours. I mean, you look at the content of it for the instance, this lab right here, we're literally going through and looking at log files in a Linux box. You know, it's looking at Nginx, it's looking through here where the server.conf files are. But most of this is not going to take you, it's not a 4-hour lab. It's maybe a 2-hour lab at most. Okay. Questions about Netlabs?
Hey, so Kelly, this is Gail.
Hey, Gail.
As far as like we've completed our lab, but we just want to come back in and get some extra practice or play around with it, because I'm looking at probably teaching the class in the fall if I pass. So that's okay.
Oh yeah,
As
you
far
can
as
do labs.
timing goes.
If you want to do the labs 10 times a piece, 100 times a piece, that's fine with me. You do it. You use it as much as you want. And one thing I will do is when you finish the class, if you need to continue to have access, I have a special. Since I run this system, I have the ability. I will move you into a special section called CCNA All Curriculums. I'll actually move you into this, and you notice that 184 people in this, but I have in this the Cyberops Associate. So I will actually, once you finish this class, if you decide that, hey, I'd like to keep access so I can keep practicing, I'll put you in here on our roster and you'll be able to continue to use this over the summer. So that's not a problem. If you want to do the lab 100 times, do it 100 times. And then I can give you access after class is over to continue to use this system. Not a problem.
Now, if we're doing this on a Saturday and Sunday and we need help, we just shoot you an email? You could just respond? Is that what?
You shoot me an email and I'll try my best to get on. I can't absolutely guarantee on a Saturday and Sunday, but I'll do my best to try to get on and help with you. If you have an issue and get stuck and you're really having an issue, we'll probably end up scheduling time to where we can get together. Because the neat thing is if you're doing a lab, for instance, like you see right now, Caleb's in here. I can mess with Caleb because he's actually one of my underlings. I work with Caleb and I sign his paycheck. So basically I can say, hey, Caleb, using you for an example. But Caleb's actually in the lab doing his lab right now. And I can actually show, I could be in here at the same time as you. So we'll schedule a time to where we're able to be together. And he's actually already pinging stuff and all. It's probably freaking him out. Like I said, I sign his paycheck, so he can't really say much. He's one of the ones that works for me under the IT Academy. But yeah, we can actually.
At least he's working.
Yeah, he's working. Oh yeah, most definitely. Yeah, I've got some good folks that work with me. He's actually working on the. Final exam for the Introduction to Networks course. So. But yes, we can get together and I can be in the class with you. I can be in the actual lab with you and I can say, okay, well, this is what it looks like to me the problem is. Or if you're having a problem, one of the things I'll tell you to do is go in here and let's say you're having a problem in a certain part of the lab, take a screenshot to where you're having the problem. Okay, so take that screenshot so that I've got it and put in a note, having an issue here. Now hopefully you're not having an issue here because this is a logon. But if you are, click submit. And then when you end the reservation, if you say, hey, can you review my lab 444? Well, eventually when that's done, I could actually go and look at that and see that screenshot and try to figure out what was going on. Many times I can actually see that it was a function of you were one of the most common things is using an L instead of a 1 or a 1 instead of an L, especially inside of Linux, believe it or not. But that's something I could go in here and I could actually look and see that you've done the lab and say, hey, you know what, there's a right there having an issue right here. So you can see that screenshot that you saved. I could go and look at it. I'd say, well, the issue was you weren't logged in, you know, in this case, being facetious, but that's an example there how you could use the screenshot to send me information so I could look at it. It's really, to
You
me,
also said there were packet tracer labs too. Those you can't do in Netlab?
you cannot. No, Packet Tracer, you're going to have to download Packet Tracer. There aren't many Packet Tracers in this curriculum, but to get Packet Tracer, you will go up to the resources, Packet Tracer resources, and then you can download the Packet Tracer download page. I'm going to recommend strongly that you download do not download version 8. Okay, version 8 is only for a certain version of the curriculum. Download version 3.1. And I also strongly recommend you download the 64-bit version. So you'll download the 64-bit version of Packet Tracer. If you've never used Packet Tracer before, install it and use it. But there's only
don't use 8, you said.
Don't use 8. No, 8 is only for version 7.02 of the CCNA. It is not for our Cyberops work.
Okay.
So you want to use 7.3.1, 64-bit. And again, to get to it, you just go up to resources, Packet Tracer resources, and then go to your download page. Okay. Any other questions? Because that's really all I have. I do want to show you one last thing that I gave you access to, that you do have access to, and that is this resource that is under our library, and it is, you go to current students library, and this is in the video I sent you in the email today. But under library resources, again, it's in the video, so I'm not gonna, you can review that video, but databases A to Z, but under O'Reilly database. This database, let me log out so that I'm gonna sign out so that you can see the login process. Okay, so I'm going to go to this O'Reilly database, and it's going to ask me, the first thing it's going to say is name your school. Okay, so it's going to say, what is your institution? Well, our institution is not listed. So I'll click here, and it's going to ask you for your email. Now put in your Stanley email, whatever that happens to be. And if you don't know your Stanley email, it is basically your Netlabs login plus scc.stanley.edu, scc.stanley.edu. Now mine is just Stanley because I'm an instructor, not a student. But I'm gonna click Let's Go, and suddenly I have now available to me an unbelievable amount of resources. This is, if you're familiar with Safari Online, this is Safari Online, but it's a campus subscription. So I can go under playlist, and I can go to my Cyberops Associate, and here's the official CERT guide book, completely free for you to use during your study here. So here's all of the study for Cyberops Associate. Okay. That's neat and nice and grand and all, but let's imagine that you decide, hey, I don't know enough about Linux. Well, guess what? I can actually just put Linux in here. And there's all these Linux classes and Linux stuff available. Let's say that I decide, hey, you know, Kelly talked about DevNet. Let's look at some DevNet stuff. Well, here's the DevNet certification guide. Here's some labs.
How was the video content?
Video content's down here too. So for instance, I'm teaching there's no video content for Cyberops right now. But there is, like, for the entire CCNP Encore, there's actually a video course. In fact, I was going through it earlier today. So as long as you're a student at Stanley Community College, I'm actually down into the DTP section. But as long as you're a student here,
look at in administrative mode.
You have access to this database. And like I said, let's just imagine that for some reason you may be studying for your CCNA 7. Well, we have down here the official cert guide for CCNA 7, volume 1 and 2. We have the video course by Kevin Wallace. We have practice tests. We have basically everything you would need if you were prepping for your CCNA version 7 exam. As long as you're a student at Stanley Community College, which you will be for now, for this semester, and for basically another 6 months after this, because we keep your Stanley email address active for a year, within a year of the course that you're taking, you will have access to this. So
That's unbelievable. Thank you so much. That's spectacular.
yeah, when we were able to get this this particular database for our school, I about fell over, because like I said, I was spending $500 a year, over $500 a year myself, just to have access to this database. So you know, if you spend, it's like I tell my students who take VMware courses, if you're spending $195 a year and taking one course with us, it's worth it just to have access to this database. I mean, here's CISSP. So if you want to study for CISSP, here it is. You could go and study for your CISSP. So just be aware, it's a very, very neat.
I might not be sleeping on the weekends anymore. That's it.
That's right, Mike. Everybody has a Stanley email address. Everyone who becomes a student at Stanley Community College has an email address. Give me just a second and I will sanitize a list and I will show you your email addresses so that you've got that. Let me sanitize a list real quick and I will be able to show it to you.
Well, I had a problem getting the student ID, but that you helped me with. Thank you very much.
Student IDs, that's always a pain in the butt for us, and I apologize, but it's something that we deal with constantly. There's no easy way to get that to people. Let me do this.
The help desk was helpful with that also too.
Yeah, they do a good job with that. They really do. So let me delete everybody's personal email addresses. Everything else should be okay. So here, as a student at Stanley Community College, you have here's your Stanley email address. So it's that information right there. So who was it, Michael? You are mcuthrell9770@scc.stanley.edu. So when it asks you to log in, to give your institutional email address, that's what you'll put, okay? So that'll let you get in. Any other questions? And I can email if you have any questions, let me know. I'll email it to you too. Okay. But yeah, that to me, the O'Reilly database is phenomenal.
Now, how often is the class going to meet?
We're going to meet once a week. I'm looking at scheduling probably, I was going to do Thursdays, but I think it's going to have to be Wednesdays or Tuesdays. Which one will work best for everybody?
Tuesdays. What time is he going to schedule the class for?
It'll probably be the same time. So it'll be 3 to 4.
Tuesday is not good for me.
Okay. We may try Thursdays then. We may just
Thursdays is good if everyone else is available Thursday. But you said you're recording them also, right?
I do record it. Yes, everything's being recorded. So.
And how do we access the recordings?
I'll send you the YouTube link for the recording.
Okay, thank you.
So folks, I'm actually going to stop recording right now. Are there any questions?